Okay.
And it's recording.
Yes.
Okay. So the question is, I just bought a Subway franchise, and I need to assign a different network address to every Subway franchise. Right? So let's say and it doesn't matter because I'm starting from scratch. So let's say I want to use a private IP addressing scheme of 10 dot something, dot something, dot something. Right? So every host everywhere on my network is going to have 24 bits within each one of those networks. Which part of this address, let's just pick an IP address of 10.3.5.75 with a subnet mask of 255.0.0.0. Okay? Based on what I just told you, 2 to the x power or y power minus 2, how many IP address? First of all, what's the network address of this IP address? What is the network address of this, Taylor? The network address is 10.0.0.0. Everybody's got that, right? You understand? Where the one's in, or the 255, that's where the network address. So that's one subway. That one subway location, okay? Subway. That one subway location in Plymouth, Indiana needs to be able to communicate through a router to another subway in Rochester, Indiana. And if I assign an IP or network address to this subway in Plymouth, Indiana of 10.0.0.0, how many different hosts could I have in there with unique IP addresses? Zach? No. How many different hosts do I have available to me when I start assigning IP addresses? Jill, do you know? Okay, everybody pay attention up here. If the network address is 10.0.0.0, that means that every host in this has an IP address of 10.0.0.1, 10.0.0.2, 10.0.0.3, blah, blah, blah. And then once I get up to 254, then I have to go 10.0.1.254, 10.0.1. Or I'm sorry, 10.0.1.1, 10.0.1.2, 10.0.1, right? All of those. Then when all of those 254 are used up, now I've got 10.0.2.1, all of those are on the same network. All of those devices could be in the subway, in this one subway in Plymouth. All of those hosts. Do I need, first of all, how many are possible for me to assign based upon that? Yes? No, more than that. What is the formula for calculating the total available hosts that I can make? Austin, Howell.
Would you multiply 254 by 254 by 254?
2 to the what power?
3.
Huh?
3.
Nope. How many bits do I have available?
Oh, 24.
24. 2 to the 24th power. So let's go through that little exercise. If that's 2 to the 24th power, let's get rid of this. If that's 2 to the 24th power, so that means it's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times blah, 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 24 times, right? Somebody tell me what that number is. 2 to the 24th power by itself. Michael. 16,700,000 what? 260? 216. Okay? Possible host IP addresses. So, like I said, it could be 10.0.0.1, 10.0.0.2, all the way through until it's finally 10.254.254.254. This by itself is not it. I still have to subtract all ones and all zeros. So it's 2 to the 24th power minus 2. So instead of 16,777,216 possible different host IP addresses, it's 214, 16,777,214. Chances are I'm not going to have that many hosts in every one of these. Okay? So if my network address for this subway is 10.0.0.0, and I'm only using this octet for the network addressing,
Yeah.
thank you. Then what are the possible other network addresses for Rochester, Indianapolis, all those? What are they? Give me another one. Oh, for God's sakes. Somebody give me another network address for another location.
Oh, 192.0.0.
Huh?
192.0.0.
Could be 192.0.0.0. Give me another one. Michael. Ebert. 222.0.0.0. Give me the highest one. Michael. No. 254.0.0.0. So I can have an IP address of 254.0.0.1, 254.0.0.2, 254.0.0.3. Right? You understand that? Those are because they have to be different network addresses because they're connected through a router. So those have to be on different networks. Gabe, give me one more network address for my location in Argus, Indiana.
11.0.0.0.
I can't hear you.
11.
11, thank you, 11.0.0.0. All right, so given that, I know that I have how many different subways? 354 different subways. So when I pick out my IP addressing scheme, can I use an 8-bit subnet or an 8-bit subnet mask for my networks?
Well, I mean, it depends on
Doesn't depend on anything. Okay, explain yourself.
because say if there was only a limited number of people on the network at the subways, if they didn't take up all the possibilities
For host addresses.
the host addresses, they could theoretically do it, but,
No, they couldn't. Who wants to explain why they couldn't?
oh yeah, it could also be right next to each other.
So they're different networks. I have 354 different networks, which means every one of these has to be different. Right? Every one of these has to be different. And how many different possibilities do I have for network addresses given an 8-bit subnet mask? 254. How do I know that? Because I work the formula. One way I know that. 2 to the what power minus 2 if I've got an 8-bit subnet mask? Taylor. 2 to the 8th power minus 2. Everyone get your little calculator out. No, you know what? What's 2 times 2?
4.
Times 2. Times 2. Times 2. Times 2.
4.
Times 2. Times 2. 2 to the 8th power. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wait. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? Do you get the idea? Now, what would be a good subnet mask to use for my IP addressing scheme if I have 354 different subways? Tell me the subnet mask, because that's what I'm going to start with. Tell me a good subnet, or a possible subnet mask. I have 354 subways, 354 subways, and in my networking world, give me another name for subways. I have 354, yes, Austin. Yep. Yes. Give me another name for subways. Yes, Michael. Networks. I have 354 different networks. That's what you need to be thinking as an IT guy. I have 354 different subways, but each one of those has a maximum number of 10 hosts. Okay? So give me a viable subnet mask for my networking scheme. Austin.
255.255.255.0.
255.255. I can't hear.
.255.0.
.0. Okay? Now, how do you know this? Talk me through it.
Because there's only 10 hosts.
What's that?
Because there's only 10 hosts.
There's only 10 hosts. So how do I know that this will do it for me?
Because in that one you can have 254 hosts.
And how do I know that?
Because there's 8
Bits available
bits, yeah.
for different hosts. So what's the formula, Taylor? So if I want to calculate the total number of hosts, what formula am I going to use? What? Not squared. Square would be 2. Huh? Okay, you're just throwing stuff out there. How do I calculate? How many bits are in this? There you go. That's what we put in there. And then what's the rest of the formula? There's another part of this formula. -2 equals the total number of hosts that are available. Total number of hosts. If I want to see how many different networks I have, how would I do that? Jason. What's the formula? With this subnet mask, how do I calculate total number of networks? Miguel. Zach. Okay, guys, we just went through this. And if you don't understand something, you got to raise your hand. You just can't ignore it. Johnny. Okay, Johnny, what? You're right. Why is it 2 to the 24th power? Pay attention, Miguel.
Because there's still 3 octets.
There are 3 octets used for the network address. If that means there are 3 octets used for the network address, that means this formula is now 2 to the what power? Jill? Okay, everybody raise your hand if you know the answer to this. There are enough who don't that we're going to go over it again. One more time. Everyone needs to pay attention. Everybody pay attention up here. Okay, in order to calculate available hosts or networks, calculate the available hosts or networks. Okay? In a business environment, what is another name for the total number of networks? Give me an idea. Let's use a different example. I just bought out the Apple stores throughout the world. I just bought out the Apple stores and I'm starting from scratch. So there are currently 12,743 stores. Now, what does that mean to me? I have 12,743 different stores. What's the first thing I want to know? Or what's the first thing I need to equate this to? Okay, everybody get that? Networks. If I have 12,743 different locations, different stores, every one of those stores needs to be on a separate network, right? Which means they have to have a different network address. Now let's review that. If my IP address is 192.75.36.4 of a host, that machine, that's the IP address, and I have a subnet mask of, and I keep doing that, CIDR notation. If I have a subnet mask of 255.255.255.0, what is the network address of this IP address? If you don't know the answer, raise your hand, please. If you don't know the answer. Okay, Miguel, what's the answer? What's the network address of this? What is the network address of this IP address if the subnet mask is 255.255.2550? Okay, what's the rule of thumb when you're trying to figure out what the network address is? Michael Lieber. You don't know? There isn't any. Yes, Austin. You.
If it just follows suit for which one is 0, so in this case it would be 4.
Where the ones end, where the 255s end, that's your network address, like Austin is describing. That's your network address. So given this subnet mask, Michael Lieber, what is the network address for this IP address? No, that's the subnet mask. Josh, what is the network address? .0. Always end it with the 0. This IP address, its network address, is 192.75.36 because that's where the ones end, right? .0. If that's its network address, Frank, if it's 192.75.36.0, how many different IP addresses or host addresses could I have on the same network in this same store? Wrong answer. How many? How do you calculate it? How many know the answer to this question? So you guys back there in the back don't know the answer to this. Seth, do you know the answer to this question? Or you're taking the quiz still? Do you know the answer to this question? Quinn, do you know the answer to this question? Brittany, do you know the answer to this question?
Would it be 2 to the
I can't hear you.
24th? Would it be 2 to the 24th?
What did she say? No, because that would be the network addresses. It would be just this last octet. Josh? 2 to the 8th power minus 2. My question was, how many possible hosts? All right, so if you wanted to, you could write this out, right? If I want to be on the same network, pay attention, if I want to be on the same network, one IP address that's available to me would be 192.75.36.1, 192.75.36.2, .3, .4, .5, .6. All of them are on the same network because they all start with the same 192.75.36 because this subnet mask tells that computer that this is your network address because the ones end use those numbers. And then whatever's left, you can use as possible host options. And we know that the host options can only go, in this particular case, because I only have 8 bits to work with, or that last octet, I can go from .1 all the way up to what? Miguel? 254. If I go to 255, what happens? Help me. If it goes to 255, what happens? What's the rule in IP addressing? What's 255 the equivalent of in binary? All ones. Can't do all ones. If it's 0, can't do all zeros. So I can go from 1 to 254. I've got 254 different options. Everybody understand that? Anyone not understand that? If the subnet mask is 255.0.0, and it can be, given the same IP address, what is the network address of this? In other words, this host is sitting on a network. What's the network address? How many know the answer to this? Christopher, what's the answer?
192.75.
What?
192.75.0.0.
192.75.0. What?
0.
Very good. Okay, the network address of this IP address, this given IP address, is 192.75.0.0, which means how many different hosts could I assign to this network? If you wanted to write it out, you could say 192.75.0.1, 192.75.0.2, those are 2, .3, .4, .5, .6, .7, you just start adding it up. What happens once you get 192.75.0.1 or .254? What's the next IP address in that progression? Yes? 1.1 and 1.250. All of those are different host addresses, but they're all on the same 192.75.0.0 network. 0.0 network. Right? So, instead of adding all of those up for possible host addresses, I use a formula to calculate how many possible host addresses there are. So given this network address of 192.75.0.0, I only have the last 2 octets to work with. How do I calculate the total number of possible host addresses for that? Frank?
2 to the power minus 2.
No, raise your hand. Brittany?
Maybe 2 to the 16th.
I can't hear.
2 to the 16th.
2 to the 16th power minus 2. So you always use 2. I have 8 and 8 for 16 bits available in the host addresses. So 2 to the 16th power. And since I can't use all ones and I can't use all zeros, I subtract 2, and that gives me the total number of possible host addresses. Son of a gun.
So is that following the before? It had a mark before that before it
Okay. Given this network address of 192.75.0.0, this is one location, right? This is a Microsoft or a Apple store in Chicago, Illinois. Okay? I want to open up a store in Indianapolis, Indiana. In fact, let's just go through it. So in Chicago, my network address is 192.75.0.0. I want to go to Indiana with a subnet mask that's how many bits? If my network address is 192.75.0.0, what's my subnet mask? Zach. Okay. Someone talk me through how I would calculate what my subnet mask is. Michael. Right, so I would put 255.255.0.0 is my subnet mask that I would assign to every physical device. Because if I apply that subnet mask to an IP address of 192.75.anything, then it's going to tell me that the first 2 octets, because that's where the 255s are, the first 2 octets are the network address, right? Follow that down? Okay. If my network address were 192.0.0.0, Zach, what is my subnet mask?
255.0.0.
Very good. 255.0.0.0. Everybody understand that? All right, let's go back to this. So 192.75, we've established that. If my network address is 192.75.0.0 in Chicago, what needs to be, give me an IP address that would work in Indianapolis, or give me a network address that would work in Indianapolis. Jason? Say it again. Okay, nope, it's got to be different. Michael Eber. 24. Let's say I want to use the 255.255 subnet mask. Okay, how did he come by that? MacGyver.
Well, just pick the number that wasn't, the 192.75 whatever. You just, could be any number, just not that number. That's within the values of the.
Could it be 24.36.10.0?
No, not for that kind of address, because those two spots are reserved for host, not host, but objects, computers, whatever on the.
I said that I wanted a 16-bit subnet mask. 8 and 8 is 16, 255.255. Therefore, it's the first two numbers that are used for the network address. The last two numbers are used for the host addresses. How many possible host addresses? Give me an example of a good host address in the Indianapolis network. I've got a server and I want to assign it an IP address. Seth, give me an IP address in the Indianapolis office.
255.
An IP address, not a subnet mask.
42.
No. Given this network address of 24.36.0.0, give me a valid IP address for one of the hosts.
242.
What'd you say?
242.
Okay.
Or just a 24.
All right, guys, listen.
36 and just.
This is the network address, right? Do you understand now, Dr. Quinn? Everybody else, this is the network address of 24.36. So that means every IP address on that network starts with 24.36. Okay? You only change the host portion because the subnet mask says 255.255. That network address is, if this were different and it was a host device in that network, what would happen? Let's say I did use, 23.36.0.1 and 24.36.10.5. Could those communicate with each other, Frank? Why not?
Because the first number isn't the same.
The first two numbers are not identical, which tells me that they are in different what? Different what? Different networks. In order for those two devices with those two IP addresses to communicate with each other, what would have to be in between them, Zach?
Switch.
Not a switch. Gabe, what would have to be there?
HTTP thing.
If, yes, the question was, if I wanted this device that's assigned an IP address of 23.36.01 to talk to a device with an address of 24.36.10.5, and if they both had the same subnet mask of 255.255.0.0, what is necessary for these two devices to talk? Gabe, one more time. What has to be in between them? A router. They're on different networks. They have to have a router in between them. Everybody understand that? Okay, so someone give me a valid IP address. I guess the bell will go up. Someone give me a valid IP address for a printer that is located in the Chicago office. Hold on, I'll let somebody else. Christopher,
192.
you got to sound off, buddy.
192.75.0.1.
Okay, that's a valid IP address. All right? Someone give me a valid IP address for something in the Indianapolis office. Yes?
24.36.0.1.
24.36.0.1. What's the test? Is 24.36.0.1 with a subnet mask that is 16 bits, or 255.255.0.0, is that on the same network as some other device? 24.36.0. whatever. Yes, it is. Why? Why is it on the same network? How do I know it's on the same network? Has the same network address because it has the same number, 16 bits to identify. Okay, so given these two networks, Chicago and Indianapolis, let's say Chicago, I have a server with an IP address of 192.75.3.1. Can it see a printer in the Chicago office that has an IP address of 192.75.254.17? Don't word it out, just raise your hand if you know the answer. And both of them have a subnet mask of 255.255.0.0. Miguel, can this server see this printer? And why? His answer was yes. And why? Well, what does that tell you? If it has the same number of bits in the network address, it tells you they are on the same, they're on the same network. Okay? If this server had an IP address of 192.75.3.1, and this printer had 192.75.254.17, but it's in the Indianapolis office, could this server see this printer?
No.
How many say yes? Michael, why?
Because the location doesn't matter as long as it's in the same network. Just seeing it through the network is not seeing it because it's
Okay, that's actually a decent idea or a decent job of explaining it, however it's wrong. If I'm on this network in Chicago, and I'm on this network in Indianapolis, what did I say has to be in between these? Okay, then let's take that one step further. If that router is in between them, and let's pretend that the router is here. How many interfaces have to be on this router? At least. How many network cards have to be on this router for me to route between two locations? Yes? At least two. Right? At least two. Because, and why? Why is that?
Two locations.
What? Okay, so I've got a network interface on this router, right? What do I have to do? I'm configuring the router from scratch. What do I have to do to that network interface? This is a NIC. This is a card on each side. Yes?
It's like you have to have two separate network cards because you're running through two separate networks.
Okay, so what am I going to do to these two cards?
You're trying to configure them so they both are compatible with each other and they talk to each other.
Okay, so in Chicago, this card connects to Chicago, this card connects to Indianapolis. Give me an IP address for this card on the top.
192.75.0.2.
0.2. Okay, how do you know that? Because it's on the same network. And I assign the IP address of 192.75.0.2. A host up in Chicago can't see this card on this router unless it's on the same network. Okay, so Miguel, give me an IP address for the router interface that's in Indianapolis. 24.36. What? .2. You're missing an octet. Nope. IP address for a host cannot end in 0 or all ones. So give me a different 24.36.2. What? Okay, so I've already got, I can only have a total of 4 octets. So I've got 24.36.2. Give me a number. not 0 and not 255. Okay? All right, so I have the router IP address in Indianapolis, Chicago. I have the router IP address in Indianapolis. Okay? Where would I tell a host name in Chicago to go find this router at this IP address? Where do I tell a host in Chicago, as I'm configuring its IP address, how do I tell it that this is the router? One person knows the answer, even though we already covered it this morning. Who else knows the answer? One person. What's another name for a router on a local area or on a network? Raise your hand. Yes? Nope. Well, okay, so layer 3 switch can be a router. You're not wrong, but that's not where I'm going with this. Frank? Gateway. So, I've got an IP address on my computer. Where do I tell it to find the router? How do, Taylor? Huh? Okay, I understand what you're saying. Instead, show me. Somebody tell me how to assign the gateway to that IP or to that computer. Talk me through it. MacGyver.
Gateways. Excuse me, what was the question?
Jessica, start me out. Right click on this network interface on this host. Then what? Properties. And let's say I'm configuring that one for Chicago. Or I'm configuring, yeah, one for Chicago. Now what? Anybody know? Who knows? I'm configuring the IP address, yes?
Go to IP version 4,
IP version 4, okay?
and you want to open that, the properties of that. And then you want to go to the advanced button.
No, I don't.
You know?
No. I want to manually assign the IP address to this.
No. Go to the other, the bubble underneath the one that's already clicked.
So let's use the following IP address.
And then you could, you put in your IP address you want
What IP address do I want? I'm doing Chicago.
to. 192.75.0.2.
Now what?
Alright, the subnet mask would be 255.255.0.0.
What's a gateway?
Would be 192.75.0.200. I was reading something.
Who knows the answer? Yes, Quinn.
192.75.0.0.
No, that's the network address. That's not the gateway address. The gateway address is always the router. And if you look up at my little chart up there, what's the router that's in Chicago? 192.75.0.2 is the router. So now what's the problem?
We need to choose the IP address.
Yes, I need to change the IP address of this host. Give me a valid IP address of this host.
Dot 3.
What is it?
Dot 3.
0.3. Okay? All right. So this device, 192.75.0.3, is communicating to the Indianapolis network through the 192.75.0.2 router. Okay? Everybody understand this? Give me a configuration for Indianapolis. Start me from scratch. Who knows how to do this? Start from scratch. What do I do?
You look on the Wi-Fi. You know,
Click on my network interface,
properties,
properties,
open IP
IP version 4.
Oh, right click on it. Properties.
Properties,
And then use the following IP address.
because I'm going to manually assign it. If I didn't want to manually assign it, Josh, what does obtain an IP address automatically mean? That it's going to look for a DHCP server to say what its IP address is. So use the following IP address. Now I'm configuring one for Indianapolis. So give me an IP address.
24.36.0.1.
.0.1. Okay, hold that thought. Stop the video.
Everybody's getting ready to call.